Hey everyone. Today we're diving into everything you need to know about remediating EMFs or electromagnetic frequencies, those harmful, dirty electricity frequencies, frequencies from cell towers and now space satellites and Wi Fi and cell phones. This form of pollution that is bombarding us day in and day out. Now, some of you may be like me and call yourself a canary in the coal mine when it comes to electromagnetic frequencies. I am super sensitive to the point where, for the last 12 years since I started my healing journey, I have been on a mission to figure out how to remediate and limit EMF exposure because I understand how much it impacts me and how much it impacts my body's ability to heal and detoxify and be strong and healthy. Now, some people may not experience symptoms like me from EMFs, but you may know that they're impacting you at a cellular level, anyways. Because the fact is, whether you're aware of this or not, EMFs are impacting people's cellular function everywhere, everyone. It's just that some people are more aware of it or not. And although at some points in my life I felt a little frustrated that I was so sensitive and often limited by this electromagnetic sensitivity. Now I'm super grateful because I have this awareness, I have this sixth sense, you could say, this hyper awareness to the impacts of EMFs, and it put me on this mission to find solutions. And I've tried a lot over the last 12 years. I really have been a guinea pig for different approaches, different technologies, different tools, and I have found the best. The best is EMF solutions. These products came into my life literally as an answer to prayer when I was feeling super limited by my ability to travel because I couldn't stay at places with smart meters or where there was a lot of an electromagnetic load because it would make me quite sick. And I was also struggling to keep my living situation, my home, in a healthy place. And I have changed homes quite frequently. And so everywhere I was staying, I would mitigate it to the best of my ability with the tools that I had. But it was getting to the point where I was struggling in my home too. So I set out to find EMF tools that would be a match for the increasing frequency and intensity that we're being exposed to electromagnetically in the world right now. That's when EMF solutions came into my life. It was a night and day difference for me when I first installed their home harmonizer box, which we're going to talk about, and then I started using their other products as well. And I tell you, I felt more hope for humanity when I experienced these products because I believe that we have what it takes to fix and heal everything. No matter how bad things are getting out there, no matter how dark the agendas are getting or how much environmental pollution and electromagnetic pollution we're facing now, it's bad and we have the solutions. We just have to be willing to, first of all, know there are solutions and then keep our consciousness and our awareness open to those solutions. So I am really excited to share these products with you, to share this discussion around EMFs and how you can protect yourself, your home, your loved ones, how you can stay healthy when traveling. These products changed my life, and I know that they will change yours as well. Enjoy this discussion with Cory, the founder of EMF Solutions. Hey, Cory, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm looking forward to this conversation where we can just dive into why EMFs are getting so intensely crazy, why this is important for everybody and not just people like me who are highly sensitive, and really practical solutions people can do to remediate their home and their living environment.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me today.
Yeah, I truly your products were an answer to prayer, because my philosophy is that we have what we need to fix and heal everything. I believe that we can call it love or truth is always more powerful than whatever darkness we face out in the world. But the darkness is getting darker when it
Mm.
comes to the EMFs and this environmental pollution. So, my first question to you is, how do your products work? Because I started using them intuitively and felt a tremendous difference before I intellectually understood the mechanism of action. So can you explain that and maybe also how you got into this field in the first place?
Sure. Well, let's start there. So I got into the field because after being really sick about 20 years ago or so, I got into holistic healing because I wanted to help people how I was helped and help them get better. So I had a guy, a chiropractor, do all this special stuff, got me back to what I would quote, say normal health. And I was so excited to do that. Became a practitioner, and as a practitioner, met my wife. She was a practitioner. We realized if we didn't address this elephant in the room, this enormous invisible elephant in the room, EMFs, we could not like help our clients nearly as much. Try having Lyme disease and getting over it today
Mm.
versus 30 years ago. People 30 years ago, I had a roommate that had Lyme. Like that was like he had it, he got on some medicine, it was gone, no evidence of anything. He was great. Now there's people living with Lyme for years and years and fighting it and fighting it. It's rare people get over Lyme anymore. And I suspect the thing that changed in the world was the EMFs making it everything so much more stressful for us that it's hard to get sick people better than it used to be. So when we set out to go find EMF products, my wife and I, we tested everything we get our hands on, and nothing was working well. A lot of stuff worked a little bit and was helpful, but we wanted something that worked darn near 100%, if not 100%. And so I set out to try to learn about EMFs. Discovered that really there was nobody out there that totally understood how an EMF was actually harming us on a cellular level and what was causing all these problems, because we knew there's all these symptoms happening to people, but how the heck, what, there's got to be a reason like how it affected us inside. So we discovered Dr. Martin Paul, some amazing research that was already done, and we sort of connected, we sort of found the missing link, if you will, of how the EMF was causing the calcium channels in your cells to malfunction, which is like the root cause of how EMFs affect you. And when we did that, we created products, and then we started helping our clients. And pretty soon I got really busy doing that, as much as the rest of my practice. I had to quit my practice because I was busy. I wanted to help people this way. I told my wife she had to quit hers once I got too busy. And then I needed to hire somebody else to train to help us. And then pretty soon I'm like, I guess this is our company. This is what we do. So we created EMF Solutions instead of just having a practice that was doing this, and then started training programs. And now we have, reps all around, and the rest is history. So that's kind of how we got into it. It was just filling a need that was there that wasn't quite being met the way we thought it should yet.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you were in the trenches, seeing people who were being affected, and that's what I have noticed myself is when I'm able to address the EMF load, then I can make health progress. But
Yes.
it really is it's a big barrier unless that's addressed. And let's talk about the calcium channel blockers, and what you also educate on is the subatomic stress and how it's not actually the EMFs itself that we measure on a meter that are hurting people, but what's absorbed. And
Mhm.
this is where your products are different because they don't block EMF. That's what I tried for years. I slept with a Faraday mesh around my bed. I tried the phone cases that would, well, block most of the radiation, but I wasn't seeing the results I wanted. So let's talk about this mitigation approach and the cellular effects of that.
Sure. Yeah. Blocking, first of all, blocking the radiation means your device wouldn't work. So if you blocked your phone, if you blocked your router, you would have no internet, you would no phone call, you would have nothing. Radiation is photons traveling light speed carrying energy. And how fast they oscillate with an electrical and a magnetic field, which is perpendicular to how they travel, um, that determines what we call the radiation. If it oscillates trillions of waves a second, that's called an X ray or gamma ray, or nuclear power is on that. That is called ionic radiation. That's directly affecting you. It took scientists 50 years, by the way, to discover that this was harming us, but that rips electrons off atoms, and that's how it harms DNA, and that's how it causes damage. Our products aren't addressing that. You have to block that. But the lower frequencies, and I say lower, billions of waves a second is what your cell phone and your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth is all using. Still pretty high, but that doesn't directly affect you. So physicists have thought, well, gosh, that doesn't affect you the same way, so therefore it must be harmless. They were wrong. The biologists are screaming and sounding the alarm, saying there's thousands of studies showing this stuff is harming people, hurting DNA, and so on. So this was like the big mystery we had to figure out. And since it can't hurt you directly, and I believe the physicists and the physics behind that, since it can't hurt you directly, to say the physicists, we said, well, gosh, then how is it doing it? Because it's doing it, says 10,000 studies that I know of. And we figured, well, there's an indirect process. So it turns out, and how about I explain kind of how the EMFs are hurting people? So this is kind of what we discovered, the missing link here. So an EMF itself, since it can't hurt your DNA directly and your cell directly, your EMFs are being absorbed, just like radiation in your microwave oven. That's 2.5 billion times per second, or hertz, is the oscillation of that frequency of the radiation in your microwave oven, called microwaves. Okay, that exact frequency is what comes off your Wi-Fi router, by the way. Most people don't realize your cell phone, your computer, your router, all using the same frequency as your microwave oven. When people realize, they're like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound
Yeah,
good.
no.
So it's not enough to heat your head when the router's across the room, but it has effects. So in your microwave oven, the way that it's heating your food is it shakes and vibrates the molecules, and they smash into each other, and the friction heats your food. And that, it's not magic. We just think it's magic, like bing, bam, it's hot. That's what's going on. So when you have a router and a cell phone and Bluetooth device and all this, cell tower over there and all this radiation, it's also shaking and vibrating molecules once that radiation gets absorbed in something. And when radiation is absorbed, it disappears, it's gone. A photon crashes into an electron. I don't want to get too technical, but when it does that, the electron absorbs the energy of the photon. The photon has disappeared from existence. It doesn't exist anymore. All that energy travels to the electron, and now I don't want to get technical, like I said, but it spins in a bigger orbit, has more energy, tries to get rid of that energy. So now you have a process of this energy transferring into different forms of energy that's not the EMF anymore. And if you have an EMF meter like this, it's not going to pick up on all that absorbed radiation. Well, the absorbed radiation that shakes and vibrates molecules like your food in the oven, that's causing our reaction in our cells. So you got an EMF, let's say a cell tower is over there. The EMFs are traveling through the walls. Some of them get absorbed in a wall. Some of them make it to my phone and my antenna on my phone, and I can talk. The ones that got absorbed in the wall and the floor and my chair and me, those are shaking and vibrating the environment. That's causing an incorrect message around your cells. There's something called a voltage gated calcium channel on your cells. Your cell has a membrane, and the membrane basically has doors all in it. The cell doesn't let anything floating around in the blood and inside your body come in. It says, no, 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 I have enough calcium right now. I don't need any. But when it needs calcium, it opens up one door that just fits a calcium molecule in. Boom, there's a different door for vitamin C. There's a different door for amino acid. There's a different door for this. Well, the shaking and vibrating subatomic chaos is actually causing a incorrect message to your voltage gated calcium channels. Now your calcium channels are opening a door that shouldn't be open.
Gotcha.
All the calcium rushing by in your blood, which is more abundant than anything in our bodies, is flying inside of your cell. These are double ion calcium molecules. They have two positive charges. So it screws up the charge of your cell. It imbalances the amount of calcium. It causes the free radical damage and DNA damage. Anybody wants to get into the weeds of this, I trust the biologists and the biochemists that talk about this, like Dr. Martin Pall, Pall, out of Washington State University, did great talks and great research on this. So that's what those calcium channel malfunctions cause. When you get all that DNA damage and free radical damage, then you might experience worse sleep. You're getting real tired, so fatigue, eye problems, heart problems, immune system suppression, The list goes on and on. I can pull up the list. It goes on for so long, the effects of that. So again, in review, an EMF gets absorbed in the environment, shakes and vibrates things, malfunctioning calcium channels in our cells that causes a reaction. The reason this is an important process to understand is because now we know what to address. We don't have to block the EMF because I want 5G, I want the technology, I want my Bluetooth, I want my, Apple TV, I want all this stuff, but I don't want the effects of it. So we have to address that second domino, what we call subatomic chaos. And our products are addressing that second domino. When you stop that domino, then the rest of the dominoes don't fall. And you don't have to have the calcium channel malfunctions and so on. And we actually have studies, to say one more thing here. We have studies that, multiple studies of a lab in Texas that test the calcium channels in human cells, the various kinds in your body, show that when a router's nearby, how they're malfunctioning and the calcium levels are doubling in a short amount of time inside of cells.
Wow.
Products were used, completely fixed.
Wow.
Highest probability function that's possible in the study showing that our products work. It was 0.00001, I think it was. And I asked her, why wasn't it 100% perfect? And she said, because the format of this kind of study, I don't know this stuff, but it doesn't allow for 100%. That's the highest it can achieve in this study, saying that your products absolutely addressed this and worked. So of all the cool studies we have on blood, you can see blood under a microscope
Hmm.
and all this cool visual stuff. The study I just talked about is by far, it's the only study of its kind. I mean, the calcium study's been done 20 some times in the world, but it's never been done and shown the product fixing the root cause like ours. That's
Very
never been.
interesting. So so this subatomic chaos, the kind of bumping and shaking around of the cells that open those calcium channel doors. Your products work, and I don't know if I'm phrasing this question right, but your products work by changing the cellular response or by preventing the shaking and jarring motion of.
I would
Am
say
I phrasing
prevent,
that?
but we are addressing. It's kind of like on a subatomic level. This shaking and vibrating is very small.
Okay.
It's not like in a microwave oven enough to heat your head. Although if you hold a cell phone against your head on a call, your head heats up.
Oh, yeah. Well,
You
the
can see
thing
that.
is, those are the symptoms that I have experienced being pretty sensitive to EMFs. It will be a warming and a tingling in my hand. It will be like a buzzing in my head. Like it feels like agitation in my cells. So as you're describing this on a biochemical level, it is matching the bodily sensations that I felt from EMF sensitivity.
Yeah, and most people aren't sensitive. So this is happening to everybody. They just
Mm-hmm.
don't know it.
Mm,
Um, Trust me. Like
mm-hmm.
when you test human cells, it doesn't matter what human you put those cells in. Like these cells were in incubators. That's how you have to keep them alive in the experiments or whatever. But it doesn't. The human cell doesn't, decide like, no, I'm inside this human. I'm not going to have DNA damage today. Like so.
Right.
Everybody's getting these reactions. They just may not feel it. Just like we get so many testimonials every week. Lindsay, who you talk to, gets a testimonial or more almost every single day. She talks to people on the
Mm-hmm.
phone, but not everybody gets it. But that's okay
Mm-hmm.
because everybody's different. You may not be sensitive to certain things, but we get it almost half the time. Somebody really fixes everything properly and correctly through one of our reps helping them.
Okay.
And if they're sick, the testimonials go way up
Well,
above.
yeah, that's the thing, and a lot of a lot of my clients, a lot of my audience deal with chronic health conditions, so they may not be noticing the direct impacts of how EMFs make them feel, but they're certainly noticing that they feel stagnant with their healing process or hormonal issues or whatever it may be, because all that comes down to how are our cells functioning. And this is why I'm happy to be a canary in the coal mine at this point of the world, because like you said, maybe people who aren't as sensitive aren't noticing this, but it's impacting them and they could have a better quality of life by shifting this.
I
So,
can tell you one thing that's neat. Almost every single one of our reps, and therefore I'm sure a lot of our clients too, they're not sensitive. I was not sensitive to EMFs. I didn't know when they were bad and good, and I couldn't sensitive. Now maybe I also didn't know to look for it, so maybe I just felt crummier this day at this place and didn't realize I was sitting next to a router or something, looking back. But I really wasn't that sensitive. But once you fix everything all the time, like my house is fixed, my car is fixed, my work is fixed. When I'm not doing, even my gym is fixed, my pool that I swim at's fixed. But and when I'm not, I have a protective device on me at all times. So now, when I walk into a really bad place and my personal protection is not enough, like I'm fixing a building that has a cell tower right over top the roof of where I'm fixing, or something pretty nasty, man, do I feel it now. I never felt it
Mhm.
before, and I tell people it's kind of like when you're a smoker, you don't cough. You're puffing on your cigarettes all day, but a non-smoker takes a couple puffs off a cigarette, there's going to be coughing. Their body's not ready for this. They're like, "Whoa, what is that?" You know what I mean? Should you just go ahead and smoke then? No, you shouldn't. It's hurting you. The lack of coughing isn't a good thing. The proper response to smoke being in your lungs is coughing. You know what I mean?
Right.
But your body builds up tolerances and tries to handle it. So luckily, this radiation isn't killing us in 2 seconds. Luckily, the amount of DNA damage, which is humongous, that this causes our bodies, and I can talk about studies if you want on that. Um, we're so efficient, so amazing. Our bodies, the engines that we have, our avatars or whatever you want to call them, they're so amazing that they heal this DNA damage, almost all of it, really, really well. The stuff that doesn't heal as well, that's called aging fast. That's called a chance of cancer, and cancer has definitely been studied massively on EMFs as a major, problem that EMFs can cause people. But even if you are so good at this and you're younger and you can't feel a difference, it is causing you major stress. And like you said, when you get anything else on top of it, it's just too much stress. And
Mhm.
you're taking away, like when you're sleeping, you shouldn't be worrying about fixing all the DNA damage and other stuff from EMS. You should be making melatonin
Right.
to repair yourself. You should be making the adrenaline for the next day, because most of your adrenaline today was made at sleep last night. That should have been the case. So if you get tired halfway through the day, it may be that you didn't make enough adrenaline during your sleep. And EMFs are a huge cause of that. That's also in the studies. Low melatonin production when you're sleeping is studies. There's so many. Now that I'm thinking about it, if anybody is new to this and wants to see like one location where there's a whole lot of studies and information on the subject, the bioinitiative.org. So one word, bio, and then straight into initiative.org. I like to add, to take people to a page, and then you add / conclusions. And that'll take you to a page that summarizes 1,800 studies on EMS. And the reason I say this is a great website is because these people don't sell anything. They have
Mhm.
no hidden agendas. There's nobody paying their salaries that have agendas. They're just volunteers from all over the world for decades now. They're studying the effects of EMFs. And if anything, they're encouraged not to be on there, because when you tell people EMFs are bad, there's a lot of entities in the world that don't like you talking and saying that. So
Mhm.
but it's a real non-biased place that has over 4,000 studies total. That page has 1,800, and they summarize on that page really well. There's a paragraph on how many studies on leukemia and what they found, and how many were conclusive, meaning like
Gotcha.
the super high probability, like 90. I think conclusive means over 95% probability that like that study has been done and it's like causing like it says it is. And then all those different things are studied and broken down, like the children being more affected and on and on. So,
Well, that's a valuable resource because something else I've talked about a little bit here and there is how the telecommunications industry is quite like the cigarette industry
oh
in
yeah,
obfuscating the data. So,
okay.
the cigarette industry, when studies started coming out that cigarettes cause cancer, the cigarette industry was like, oh, well, we're going to go fund our own research to negate this information that's coming out so that you can follow the science and it will show that cigarettes are fine. And then, of course, they pay doctors. And we've seen this playbook from Big Pharma. And we've also seen this exact playbook from the telecommunications industry. So, to find the key is to find research that is not funded by telecom industry. Just like you can't trust research funded by Big Pharma because it's just paid advertising. Something I've learned from you that I'm not hearing discussed elsewhere, which is why EMFs are getting so bad right now. And uh, I also, being the canary in the coal mine, I started hearing really low frequency vibrations fall of 2023, to the point that it was disturbing my sleep. But I was picking up on something is changing environmentally. This was new in the area I had lived in for years, and I could feel that it was disrupting my nervous system as well, not just this auditory weird pulsing. But there are more EMF sources than we've ever had before, and also heavier duty ones from things like satellites. So let's talk about that. What can you share about, before we get into the solutions, why is the problem so big right now?
The problem is so big because right around the pandemic time when that started, so about November of 2019, that's when a lot of rockets were taken off to put all the satellites up in the 5G. I call them 5G low orbit satellites. These satellites are 350 miles up. Starlink is by Elon Musk. He makes electric cars that we could easily fix. I hope I talk to him one day. He makes satellites that I believe theoretically we should be able to easily fix too. But we're sending, there's thousands and thousands of satellites up there. Just there's 29 competitors that he has.
Wow.
He is kind of the first and the biggest probably, but China's got a company and England's got a company, and there's 20 some others all trying to compete. Even Google's trying to get some satellites. It was at Amazon is trying to get their own satellites up there and compete. So the problem is there's so many satellites up there. Um, they're using frequencies that are higher than anything that we're exposed to on the ground or up in the air. They're using frequencies up to 60 gigahertz, that's 60 billion waves a second. And the higher the frequency, the more the radiation gets absorbed as it travels. It's called attenuation. So the higher the attenuation is, the stronger the signal has to be because less of it's going to get to its target. So those satellites they have to be really strong because almost all of it gets absorbed in our atmosphere all the way down till it gets to here. Now, the little bit that gets here is not the problem. And that's what they're going to argue. They're arguing, we're only a little bit of radiation. Look at the meter. It only measures a little bit of radiation, like, like your cell phone would or something. And I'm saying, no, it's the 99.999% of radiation that got absorbed at light speed coming at us, and all that subatomic chaos is just flooding us all over the earth now. So if you have no cell phone and you unplug um, your Wi-Fi router at night and you do all these things, even if you unplug your electricity and you turn off your breakers at night, people do that. You were getting slammed by not only just cell towers in the world, but the cell towers in outer space, which I believe has made it multiple times worse since 2019. The reason I say that is because we had to make our products 4 times stronger. The home harmonizer that protects your house from everything outside, and the room harmonizer had to get stronger. The home harmonizer had to get 4 times stronger to keep up with what happened and is happening. That
Wow.
stinks. We've been doing this for about a decade. That's the biggest increase in a very short amount of time that we've seen during the whole decade we've been doing this, and it's always going up and up and up. This has gone like crazy in a very short time. The only thing that I can see that's been a major change on Earth since that time was this race to get as many satellites in outer space that you can get, because
Interesting.
that's the next frontier.
Okay.
Even the stations on the ground, um, they are using frequencies at and maybe even above 100 gigahertz, and that's like unheard of. That's the ground stations trying to shoot messages back to the satellites. And if you live near a ground station, well, I'll just say I wouldn't want to, because
Mhm.
that's a lot of subatomic chaos coming on. Something so strong that the signal is going to get to a satellite 350 miles past our atmosphere, and at that frequency. We can send messages at low frequencies to Mars, no problem, because it's a low frequency, because there's not a lot of attenuation, so it gets out of our atmosphere. Most like not as much of it gets absorbed. When you use these high frequencies, they got to be such a strong signal. It's scary to me.
Gotcha. And you were saying that in the country versus in the city, where cell towers have to carry a signal for a farther amount of distance, that is a higher frequency, not like these satellites, but higher than cell towers that would just have a shorter distance to communicate. Is that correct?
Yeah, the frequencies are probably the same. That's just the
Mm,
oscillations per second. They're using like a phone call uses 1 billion waves a second. Your router uses 2.5 and 5 billion waves a second. But when you're in the country, the cell towers are going to travel like 20 plus miles, 25, and I heard up to 50 miles sometimes.
mm,
That satellite signal can travel. That's why they're really tall, and
mhm,
you know they're really strong because they're traveling that far versus the ones in the city. If you're near one in the city, it's a lot less bad because it's only meant to travel a mile or less. So
mm,
the intensity of that satellite of that um, cell tower is going to be a lot less in the city, but there's a lot more of them, so it doesn't make it better. But when you're in the country, if you're there's two things in the country. One is if you're a mile from a cell tower, that could be a lot worse than some people in the city because it's so strong. And then two, the satellites in outer space, the 5G satellites, I call them, they are targeting where people don't get internet mostly,
right.
and that's out in the country. So if you're on a boat, like a cruise ship, or you're out in the middle of nowhere where there used to not be internet yesterday, people are getting internet there, and the satellites, they don't just spread a random signal all over the place. They target you. So if you have a satellite dish on your house because you live in the country and you're getting the Starlink service, Starlink satellite is sending like a laser beam of radiation to your satellite dish. It ain't perfect, so it's going to hit all around that dish, which is your whole house and around it. So your house is just getting like pegged with like a direct laser beam of radiation. And these satellites travel low orbit. They travel fast. So this one leaves, then another one picks up, and then this one turns off, and that one starts laser beaming you, and that one goes by, and then another one laser beams you. So it's just a lot of radiation that you're getting, and you need more of our product if you're wanting to do that. Now, I believe it can be fixed like all this stuff. I lived in a house right next to a 5G cell tower, 10 yards from it. I slept in a bed 10 yards from a 5G tower for 3 years, and a month-to-month lease could have left. But when I fixed my house enough, it tested
Wow.
great, felt great. I stayed there.
Mhm,
So it can be fixed.
mhm.
But I'm not saying don't get Starlink, but if you need Starlink, you really got to talk to one of our reps, and they got to talk you
Gotcha.
into how to fix your house properly. You got to spend a little extra money to protect yourself if you're in that circumstance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into how to fix a house, how to do this if, oh, like somebody has a smaller budget and what would be the priorities. But then if somebody knows that this is what they need to invest in to support their family, their fertility, their health. I mean, for me, I have always invested in this because I know how important it is. So let's touch on, option number one to how to fully, almost 100% create a safe haven where you're living and even when you're traveling. I love your travel tips too, so let's get into that as well.
Sure. So everybody should fix all the EMS in their life. It is so important. It's not like cutting out GMO, which is great, and there's a lot of toxic things out there. This is the biggest, most toxic thing in your life. The reason I know this so well is because we don't address health issues, yet we get so many testimonials that'll blow your mind. And more energy, better sleep is number one. We get that more common than anything else. So it's a really big deal. So I encourage everybody, fix all of the EMFs. But if your budget says no, I can't do that today, I can't do that right away, then here's a beginner way to get in. For a few $100, you can fix a big chunk of the EMFs in your life. And so that would be not in this order of importance, but fix where you sleep. That's super important because when you sleep, you're supposed to be not just resting, like dreaming, but you're supposed to actually repair what happened last night and get your body ready for the next day. I could go on a long list of stuff that has to happen at night that your body goes through and repairs all this stuff. And if your energy is repairing the other stuff, you don't have enough energy to make the melatonin, make the adrenaline, make all the stuff. So you wake up, you're tired. You're more tired halfway through the day. You need some coffee and some energy drinks and whatever. So fixing where you sleep super important. Just a $149 room harmonizer. Stick it in the outlet as close to your bed. Don't put it on a power strip. Put it in the wall. It's going to work stronger. Use the bottom plug for a power strip to plug all the rest of your stuff in if you need to. And putting this near your bed is a bare minimum of getting your sleep to be a more productive sleep. So that's one of the three things that
Mhm.
is going to be a few $100.
And I
The
have
second
I have 2
thing,
of those, and I travel with them. They go with me everywhere. I also take my home harmonizer with me when I travel, but those are the easiest things to travel with, I think.
definitely, if I know I'm going to be in a hotel room, I take two of these because some
Mm,
hotels are really bad.
mm,
So some hotels have a Wi-Fi router literally every other room, every floor. I mean,
mhm.
that's just a start. Many of them have cell towers on their roof. I can go on about other things. They are just extra bad in most hotels. So I always put one near my bed and another one somewhere in the room if it's like a hotel room. If I have a condo, a house, or anything else, I'm going to put the box. I'm going to put the home harmonizer box like you, which I know where I'm traveling and which to do on which kind of vacation or whatever I'm doing. So anyway, that's number one. Number two would be to get a cell chip or an iCell chip if you have an iPhone that's newer, on the back of your phone. So this is like a case that I'll take off, but that's some money I put back there. So that's the cell chip. I just taped it across the phone here, and just to hold it in place. It doesn't have to be taped once I put the case on.
Yeah,
But
that's what I did too. I just snap my phone in the case, and it just holds the chip in place.
exactly. So this is very strong radiation. It's very chaotic wave coming off of here. So the more the chaoticness of the wave, in other words, like the pulse is coming off of here, one's really small. The next one, if you graphed it, one's small, one's huge, one's medium, one's huge, one's small. It's not a continuous wave. So if you used a house phone, like a cordless house phone, EMF meter might read the house phone about the same amount of radiation coming off of this. Um, Probably this is higher, but even if it was the same, this is much worse because that's more of a continuous wave, and this is a very erratic wave. So these are just a lot of radiation. We live on them. We put them in our pockets, our purse. We're like it's they're in our hand. We're touching it. We're grabbing it. So all that radiation is just absorbed right into you. So these are really important to fix for that reason.
And
So that's the second.
my hand stopped tingling when I put the chip in, because I had even used, the shungite, which I had used before I found your products. That helped me to some degree. It would if I was touching the shungite while touching my phone, it would prevent the tingling, but if I was just had my face folded in such a way that I wasn't touching the shungite, my hand would still get tingly. This stopped my tingly hand with my phone, so that's big for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really sensitive people have testimonials on just a cell chip. Most
Mm,
people won't feel it, but it's happening.
mhm, mhm.
You know it.
Yeah, yep,
So that's the second thing, and the third thing would be to get a personal product so that everywhere you go, if you're not in like your bedroom at this circumstance or in your house if you have the home harmonizer, then you have either the XL band, which looks just like a cell phone watch.
yep,
It's
I
just not
got one
electric.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Or what I use, which is just as good, is the XXL, and that's not a size, that's a strength thing. XXL card, which is like a credit card size thing, and a lot of guys like it because I have a back pocket every time. Pretty much, I go anywhere. When I go to the beach or swimming or this and that, I will put a band on. But most of the time, I just stick that in my back pocket, and then boom, I go about my day. I don't need that in my house because my house is already fixed. But I just put it in there so that when I do leave, it's there,
Okay.
you know?
Okay, that's a really simple that can travel with you everywhere.
So those three things. So next, fix where you sleep next to your bed, fix your cell phone, and get a personal protection product. Those three things will get a good chunk of the EMFs in your world fixed.
Okay.
50% or sometimes more will be fixed by doing those things. Really should be a lot more than 50%. Now, if you look at the amount of DNA damage that this is giving us, um, fixing it like 80% or 70% or 60 is nowhere near enough for me. I
Mhm.
want it darn near 100% perfect. So I suggest people do everything. And we didn't really talk about some of the studies, but there can I mention one?
Oh, please do.
So one is the European Union paid 3 million euro for 12 institutions across Europe years ago to do a study because they were getting information that, hey, cell phones are causing DNA damage. And if they're causing DNA damage, let's find out how much. So they compared it to chest x rays because we know chest x rays give you some DNA damage, right? Not that much, it turns out, compared. So 24 hours on a cell phone was equal to 1,600 chest X-rays of DNA
Oh my
damage.
gosh.
And people can look that up. I think we got that on our website. So you can go to our website education tab. There's pictures of it's an assay method they use. It's called ASSAY. They take pictures, and when you see, it's supposed to be like a round ball of light, the DNA. And when the round ball of light has like looks like a comet because it got smeared, that's all
Mm,
the strand breaks. And it takes 1,600 chest X-rays to get the same like amount of smears and the same looking comet uh, of
wow.
DNA. That's crazy. So yeah, this is a lot of DNA damage. And
That's
people wouldn't
blowing my
get
mind.
5 X-rays a day. Would you know anybody who gets 5 X-rays a day every day just because? No. But
Mm-mm.
we're on our cell phones all day not knowing what's going on.
Right, right. I mean, here I am, like, I opt out of the X-rays at the airport, and I don't go to dentists who do X-rays, and I'm like, "Oh, that's that's a small issue compared to what we're with every day."
It is. It is. And those X-rays, like I said, are high frequency stuff. So you'd have to block that. That's why we wear
Yeah.
the lead, you know, thing at the dentist's office getting an X-ray or whatever. Um, but theoretically, I haven't studied this. I haven't done literal studies on this, but I can tell you theoretically, you're getting a lot of indirect damage from X-rays also. Our products do protect the indirect damage.
Mm,
And
mhm.
there, and it's possible there's a lot more indirect damage from X-rays than the direct damage. I haven't done a study to know that for sure, but theoretically, that's quite possibly what's going on. So I always take like when I'm at the dentist's office, I always put a better Z's in my lap. I just put it in my
Okay.
lap and say, X-ray me.
Nice, nice. Well, let's get into then how do we do that almost 100% remediation, especially for the home?
So the most efficient, best way for anybody and cost-effective way is to get on our website, um, use a coupon code that you give them. It gives them a little
Empowered?
bit
Yep.
discount off. It's not a ton, but every bit counts. But use the coupon code. Uh, they click on get a free home test. It's on the home page and it's on the product page. And a rep will call you. Sometimes they're local, sometimes they're not. They can Zoom call you, and they can ask you a list of questions. It's complicated for me to educate everybody how to fix everything in their life right now. It would take a lot longer than we have.
Okay.
So I can tell you definitely answer a lot of the basics. But they'll ask you questions like, do you have a home or condo? Do you have a cell tower? How close is it? How tall is it? Do you have transformers, like those electric barrels on a pole, and sometimes the boxes in the ground in your yard or on the edge of your property? Do you have solar panels in your house? And they'll ask you a bunch of questions that'll determine, do you need like one home harmonizer box, or if you have solar, you might have to add, this booster box, which is a small extra addition for a couple $100 extra. They'll be able to do those things. And then when you get the big picture, if you can afford it, trust me, do it. You will be so much healthier for it. But if you're like, gosh, my budget, I just don't have that today. This is what I have. The rep will be able to sit there and say, well, great. Let me give you the stuff that you need the most to get the most bang for your buck. And then later you can come back and add the stuff that's not quite as important as this first stuff. And
Right.
so I encourage people to really talk to reps.
Okay.
But the box that you got, that's the first thing you did, the home
It
harmonizer.
was a life changer. It truly in answer to prayer, I was blown away the difference that I felt. And the way I found it was I walked into my friend's house.
Mhm.
As soon as I walked into her house, I was like, it feels so peaceful in here. What am I feeling? And she went out back and showed me the harmonizer she had put on her smart meter. And that was it. That was all she had in her house.
Yep. So I suggest also fixing a router. What that home harmonizer does is it protects you from everything outside. So we
Mm,
talked about the satellites in your neighborhood. We talked
mhm.
about the transformers. We talked about the satellites up in outer space. All this stuff should be canceled out and pretty much almost 100% irrelevant when you have the home harmonizer on your house. Unless you have a big house or you have extra problems, you might need a little extra. But a home harmonizer is going to do that. It's also going to make the stuff in the house a lot better. So your router is going to affect in a negative way everybody in the whole house. But when you put the home harmonizer on, now the router is going to be squashed down to about a 10-foot radius around it.
Mm,
And even that 10-foot radius isn't going to be as bad as it used to be. And then
mhm.
you put a little chip on it, that device chip that you
Mhm.
clip on the electric cord, and now it's down to 0 to 2 inches. Yep.
I've got it on my computer cord as well. I also put it on my I don't use my Bluetooth in my car, so on the USB cord to plug my phone into my car, I put one of the chips on too.
Well, if you're
It's
fixing your phone, you don't need to do that.
Oh, okay. Oh, good to
Your
know.
phone's already fixed. Just like,
Okay.
so I'm the only person, like I see the wire coming out of your ear. I'm the only person in the gym that uses wired
Yeah.
headphones to listen to music. Everybody else got their Bluetooth. That's one of the only devices I say don't use because I can't fix it well enough.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
that's next to a really important organ of mine, my brain,
Mhm.
you know?
Right.
So I don't want the effects of that. Um, and so I don't like to use those. I use the wired cords, but I can plug the wire into my phone because my phone's already fixed. So the wire is gonna have stuff that's already fixed also. So no radiation problems with the wires as long as your phone's fixed.
Okay. There were 2 other points we mentioned in passing that I wanna touch on. One is solar panels. I had no idea the EMF load of solar until I was traveling, and this was my big wake up crisis moment. This was pretty recent too. I was staying in an Airbnb that had solar panels and it had 2 smart meters on the house, and I got so sick that I went searching, and that's how I found your products. I was searching and praying because I needed some help there. But can you touch on solar? A lot of people don't realize this.
Yeah, they call it clean energy. It's clean for your wallet or your purse or what, but it's not clean for us healthy wise. So some of our best testimonials come from solar panel houses.
Mm,
The chances of you having a testimonial go way up when the EMFs are worse or you're sick. And EMFs are a lot worse when you have solar panels in the house. So solar panels, you're making electricity. You're sending it to an inverter box, which converts it from direct current to alternating current, AC, DC AC converter. That's basically what the inverter box does. That conversion creates more subatomic chaos. So that's sitting on
mm,
your house is a big part of the problem. And then you have sometimes a battery which stores that energy, which is another additional problem sometimes. So you end up with a lot of what we call dirty electricity. So I showed you the 1 meter. This one measures just the microwaves and radio waves, the higher frequency stuff. We have another meter that our reps sometimes they come out to people's houses and can test for free if they're local. There's an electricity meter that measures the levels of electricity in your house. And sometimes that's high in houses, a lot higher than other houses. That's worth checking. And then there's something called dirty electricity, which should have been electricity, but it got messed with, let's just say. So the frequencies, instead of 60 hertz or 60 waves a second, they go up to anywhere between 1,000 and 10,000, 100,000 waves per second. When you have a lot of dirty electricity, that's a sign that there's a lot of subatomic chaos, and that's a problem. And there's a lot of dirty electricity in solar panel houses. That's when the
gotcha.
meter, when we put that meter on a solar panel house, instead of like 50 to 200 max, like in normal houses, it's usually around 50 to 100. You go to a solar panel house, it's 500 to 2,000 plus. Like it's a
Crazy.
lot more subatomic chaos and a lot more dirty electricity.
Okay.
So it's something we need to fix.
Okay.
It's fixable, you
Right,
know.
right. That's the good news.
Our
Yeah.
we can fix your solar panel house. I'm not going to get solar panels because it's just my wife is like, the things that we can avoid, I avoid. But I want a cell phone. I want a laptop. I want to, there's certain things I'm going to have because we can fix them. I have absolutely no evidence that our products aren't working. We have 10 different experiments, not just the one I told you about, that show our products working. Every time I see an experiment like your blood changes under a microscope just being on a phone for 2 minutes. When I saw a video on that, actually this was a video about smart meters. You mentioned those. For those who don't know what that is, it's basically a Wi-Fi like Bluetooth like device that's on your electric meter that sends out signals so the electric company doesn't have the drive by anymore. No dogs are barking at the meter man anymore like they used to when I was growing up because it's all been sent out electronically. But again, if it's not wired, it's radiation. That's how they're communicating this. So when you stand 1 foot in front of a smart meter for 2 minutes, Take Back Your Power was a movie that showed this. People's blood were changing. You can prick their finger and look at it on a microscope right away. and you can see visually what's happening to people's blood. So I was like, well, let's do that experiment. I think we were like the first or one of the first to do that. So we did those experiments and showed people's blood getting really messed up, and then with our chip on it, fixed. Like they're on a call,
Mm-hmm.
and this is pretty cool. I don't know if I can give you graphics for later, but you can see them on our website too. But they're on a call. They start a call. We do a before picture. The blood's like, whatever it is. Then they get on a call with with not our product on it for 2 minutes. Then their blood just looks terrible. Then we just put the chip on the phone. They continue the call. In 2 minutes, their blood gets better than before they started the call at all. Then
Wow.
we take it back off again. It goes back bad again. It's like you can just keep doing this on and off. It's amazing how fast it happens and how fast it seems our products are fixing that. So
Right.
there's a bunch of studies we have that are really cool. That's one of the coolest visual ones, but it doesn't hold a candle because that's just a side effect of EMFs. The fact that we tested the calcium channels in human cells, I don't need any other studies. That's the root cause. We fixed it. Perfect probability ratio by an independent lab in another state. I mean, it can't get better than that. So
Yeah. Yeah. I know I think we might be getting up to an hour on this, but I really want this to be comprehensive for people. And there are a few other points I want to touch on if you have the time.
sure.
So, why don't smart meter covers work? Because a lot of people do that. And then, can you also touch on electric cars and how to fix modern cars?
Absolutely. That's a challenge too. It's getting worse. So um, before cars, we're talking about smart meters. So smart meters, when you put a cover on a smart meter, cover doesn't disappear radiation. It blocks it. It basically reflects it like a mirror. So smart meters on the side of your house, it's designed to have the radiation go away from your house. Now, some of that gets absorbed in your wall and goes into your house, and that's why it's bad. And that's why people that are sensitive like you will feel that. And as soon as they were turned on, a lot of people around the country that are sensitive are like, wow, why am I sick in my house? Well, most of the radiation is going away from your house because the design is it's sending the information from that meter to your neighbor's smart meter that gathers the information from your meter, adds its own, and then sends it out to the next meter, their neighbor and their neighbor. And so it's like a network that goes to the neighborhood, eventually gets sent up to SCADA poles and up to the network and all that. So if you're putting a cover over your smart meter, all the radiation that was going to escape your house and go away from you is now ricocheted back into your house. You've made it much worse. Not double worse, like many more times double worse by putting that cover on your house. So don't put a cover on your house. Almost every time you try to block radiation, almost every time it's bad. It makes it worse.
Okay.
Few circumstances
Yeah.
that you make it better. The people that paint their walls in their house with paint that blocks EMFs, terrible idea unless you plan on living in a house with no electricity and no Wi-Fi and nothing inside because you're blocking it inside too. You want the radiation that's inside to escape, to go
Mm-hmm.
away. You don't want all the radiation to keep bouncing around until all of it's absorbed in your house because the absorbed radiation is the bad radiation, right? So we don't want
Mm-hmm.
it to do that. We want it to go out. Most of the radiation, even from your phone, is going to go through the walls and leave, and even your router.
Gotcha.
Some of it's getting absorbed in your house, and that's the stuff we got to fix. If you block your walls, if you do that to your smart meter by ricocheting it back in, you need a lot more of our product to fix your house.
Gotcha. Yeah. So mitigation, not blocking, is the wise
Yeah.
way. Okay. And tell us about cars. Also, I know I keep thinking of other things that I've learned from watching your live videos, but travel tips, especially for airplanes. So yeah, let's
So
get into
yeah,
that.
two great
Cars
questions.
and travel.
Cars are easy or hard depending on. So to get most of the EMS fixed in a car is very easy. I don't have it on me, but you buy our car harmonizer. It's a little plug that goes in your cigarette lighter in your car. It has two ports for you can charge phones, plug your USB in and still charge your phone out of that spot. But that will fix a car mostly. But because the EMFs got so bad in the world, and your car is made of metal, and metal it's like an antenna. Metal is going to amplify the subatomic chaos of EMFs. So when you're in a car or a plane, you're going to be much more affected by the EMFs around you, not just the ones from that car, but
Mhm.
all over. The cell towers and everything else is going to affect you much more in a car. Um, So you plug this in, that's going to fix most of the car. Most cars, you can just take a better Z's. This is what you slip under your mattress at home to make sure your mattress is perfect. Even if you have a home harmonizer, sometimes you don't need this, sometimes you do. Without explaining that, long story, just slip this on your mattress for $44 and you know your sleeping is going to be perfect.
I
But
travel
I
with
like
that too.
what's that?
I travel with that too.
Yeah.
Just I put it under any bed I'm in.
Yep. So you put one of these in your car in addition to the car plug-in, and you got like almost every time a perfect car. So I like to put this where the metal frame of the car is. You don't want to jam it between metal. So I don't like it underneath of a seat. So what I like to do is I click off the little plastic thing that the front legs of the passenger seat in the front, the legs attached to the frame of the car. This is where we want to get our product to get. I usually pop off a little plastic thing, one of the legs, the front leg on the inside of the car, and I'll sit this close to or on that. It's kind of like right under the very edge of the seat,
Mm.
and I usually have the rug that the car rug just goes over the little edge of this thing. So it's kind of like in a spot you don't really see it. If you add this to the car in addition to the plug-in, then you got probably a perfect car with only a couple of circumstances. Sometimes if you have an electric car, sometimes that'll be enough. But I would rather get this really on metal. If you can get it on the metal of your car, then you should be good to go.
Mm.
Put a plug in your car, two plugs or a plug plus this really on the metal somewhere, or right over top of where one of the batteries are. So look up
Mm.
a map, ask the car place where you got it, where are the batteries that are all underneath my car. And if you can get this right above one of those batteries, that will really help.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. I so far I just have the plug-in for the car, so I'll have to add a Z's bag there.
So my
And
wife got, I got to say this, my wife got a Chevy Tahoe. They gave us automatically free to try for a month. Um, what's it called? The OnStar. So when you get OnStar, if you have OnStar for an emergency service, not a problem. But now they give you this service where you can have hotspot that everybody can be live streaming video. All your kids in the car, and this is a six-seater or whatever. So I think it's yeah, six-seater car. So all the kids could be on their devices and be live streaming video and playing video games. That's a lot of radiation, and it comes from a satellite. So the satellite pinpoints you
mm,
like all around your car. We could not fix this car. Like it
mm,
was so bad, and you could just stand anywhere around the car would be terrible. You didn't even have to be in it. If you were 5 feet off to the side or more, or even 10 feet, you're feeling what was overhead. And I don't normally feel this stuff, and I felt terrible.
wow.
Everybody that came around the car, my wife was getting sick, and she doesn't get sick being next to a router, but she got sick when we turned on the car. Crazy. And unfortunately, we didn't know it was the car. We thought she was just hungry the first time we test drove a used one. And I drove all the way to Atlanta to pick one up. And I was driving back and I was like, man, I took a bunch of my products and fixed the car mostly. So unfortunately, it was so bad. The antenna, we fixed the whole car except for the antenna right over top of where the driver sat. Had most of the radiation coming there. We couldn't
Mm,
fix the driver's seat completely. The rest of the car was great. So we just had to call OnStar and say, turn it off.
mhm.
And they turned
Gotcha.
it off. Car was easy to fix and it's beautiful. And my wife feels great. And everybody, all the sensitive people we know, get in the car and the canaries in the coal mine, they all come in and they feel great now.
Okay,
But
that's good to
I'd be
know.
careful getting that service from OnStar because I imagine
Mm,
that's the same on all cars.
makes sense. Yeah,
Not
yeah.
fixable. Not
Okay.
fixable. Not enough. I
Yeah.
mean, not for me.
Okay. Okay. So I'm thinking the last question people might have is what are in your products to make them work? So I know you have some proprietary ingredients here, but this is earth-based material, which is why intuitively I really gravitate to it. Can you talk to that? And also, my understanding is it's important for this material to be in contact with metal because that helps helps the mitigation effect.
Yeah, it's like an antenna that we use for good.
Okay.
So the EMFs are going to use the antenna for bad, so to speak.
Mm,
We want our products to be near metal to use it for good. The reason we put the home harmonizer on your electric meter or near it or your fuse box is because we want our properties to go inside of the metal. They travel through the metal wires into every room in your house. That's how we spread our light field throughout your house to
mm,
protect you. And so that's why we use the metal the way we do. electricity also activates our product to make it even stronger. So we like it.
Interesting.
It depends, but we like it because we have different products for different reasons. So don't you can always mix them up. But we like it when it's next to something electric or even a magnet in our one product because that activates the field in our product that gets spread through the metal better. So, but I don't think people need to concern themselves as much with that because we have a pretty simple like installation page on our website,
Mhm.
and each one has either 1 or 2 minute video. I think the home harmonizers video is maybe 4 to 5 minutes because that one's the only one that requires like different scenarios. Otherwise, this stuff's very easy. You know, you
So
take the
simple.
device chip, you clip it on the cord, you slide it as close to your computer or router or device or whatever as you can, and stuff. You know, I would just follow the installation page. If they get a free home test, if they sign up to get a free home test on our website, they're going to get a rep that's assigned to them. They don't charge anything extra for all the questions and all the advice that they ask. They literally they still get the discount code that you can give them to use. And then when they get the products in, if they have this and they say, "Gosh, I have a meter, I don't know where to put it," they can give a picture to our rep. The rep will
Mm.
usually draw a picture, tell them, "Okay, put it here is the best spot." They'll walk them through it. It's very easy.
Mhm. That's such a great resource. Yeah, I definitely recommend that's the first step people take is go to your website, emfsol.com, and get that free home assessment test. That will be huge. And my coupon is empowered. That will give people 5% off all products. And
Mhm.
and Cory, I just from my heart, I am so grateful. I am so personally grateful for your products giving me more freedom in my life to travel, because I was getting concerned about limitations that were coming up in my life, especially in the last year because of what's happening in the environment. But I have a colleague who uses the term apocalyptimist, which means it's the apocalypse, but I'm gonna be an optimist about it because it's like this is breakthrough time on planet Earth, and I truly believe that when people open their consciousness to entertain the idea that we have available to us what it takes to fix the pollution and the dark agendas, like I do believe there is a war on human DNA. I think EMFs are part of it, but I'm not going to spend my energy worrying about it. I'm going to spend my energy opening my consciousness and awareness up to the vast solutions that are available. So thank you so much for providing those solutions for humanity.
Absolutely. Thank you. I never get sick of hearing testimonials. I'm never numb to that. And we hear them every week and it makes my day and week every single week. It's called awesome.
Yeah, these are amazing products. Truly the best I found out there, and I have been being a guinea pig for EMF solutions for about 12 years now. So I feel like I have found the best.
I hear that story often and I love it.
Mm, mm. Thank you so much for your time, Cory, and I'm
Thank,
sure we'll be in touch later.
thank you so much too.